Carbohydrates, are they good or are they bad? Now, carbohydrates, like fats, are a ridiculously overgeneralized term for a really wide range of foods. As a matter of fact, carbohydrates could either be a piece of broccoli or a 100% sugar lollipop. Does that even make sense? So why do we just have this big conversation? Carbohydrates, let's have a high carbohydrate, low carbohydrate diet. What are we even talking about? You know? And then we break stuff up as simple and complex carbs, you know, just to simplify the issue. Okay, so simple carbs. Well, we know these are things like, you know, bagels and donuts, and they're really high in simple carbs because they're refined products, and so you're left with the sugars, aren't you? So, really, we differentiate between simple and complex carbs. Complex carbs, we're talking about, you know, maybe like some oats or something where it's a more complicated chain of carbohydrate molecules, which is why they're called complex. But really, it's quite simple because simple carbs are just sugar. Okay, complex carbs are complex, long strands of molecules that have a whole bunch of different things and usually incorporate vitamins and minerals. Simple carbs, sugar, because all that stuff's been taken out. All the good stuff. Which is why it hits the body so hard and fast, like heroin. Versus Panadol. Both come from opium, right? They both grow up out of the ground initially. One will kill you real quick and is really bad news. The other one will absorb slowly, and you probably won't even notice you take it, apart from maybe your ache has just dissipated. Okay, it's come both the same source, so it's the same thing with carbohydrates. Okay, so you know, let's get real. Okay, sugar's bad. We've pretty much established that. You know, it takes several molecules of magnesium, for example, just to process sugar molecules. So like every teaspoon of sugar, you're chewing through your magnesium, you're chewing through this other stuff. At the same time, your body's getting this energy without the vitamins and minerals that it needs to function. You can't function on sugar, okay? Yes, your body can use glucose, your body can even manufacture forms of sugar, but it cannot function without all the stuff in nature that comes along with it, the vitamins, the minerals. We're talking dozens and dozens of minerals. We're talking, you know, depending who you talk to, a whole series of, you know, dozen vitamins, A's, B's, C's, E's, K's, lots of vitamins, and they're gone when you refine the food down to sugar. So why do we eat this stuff? Well, because it's addictive and it makes you feel good for a time, but then you get a crash, bang! Just like with heroin, or any other drug for that matter. The harder it hits you, the higher you go up, the harder you're going to come down, the quicker you're going to come down, the worse it is for you. So stay away from that stuff. Okay? So, we just really need to think, when we're thinking in terms of carbohydrates, just like fats. There's good and there's bad. Okay? Let's just call the bad carbohydrates sugars. Okay? Stay away from the sugars. So, if we're going to stay from the sugars, then we need to start thinking, okay, what's got sugars in it? Now, all grains have got sugars in it, bam. You know, whether you're talking about a barley or a sugar cane or a wheat, if they've got sugars in it, mate, I'm telling you, that's how you get your refined carbohydrates, your simple carbs, because the sun has made that happen. The sun has turned this nice, innocent seedling into this huge, raging bundle of sugars. So, even having grains in their full form, you're still getting heaps of sugars, heaps of simple carbs, essentially. So it's definitely not as bad, and there's some that are worse than others. You know, for example, oats is a lot better than wheat in terms of its carbohydrate, sort of simple carbohydrate, how hard it hits you and how long it keeps you full. But it's still carbohydrates, even though they're complex, because the simple ones, they really are kind of hiding in there amongst all the other stuff, the fibre and the vitamins and minerals and stuff that goes along with it. And the fibre alone makes a big difference to your absorbency rate, and thus how healthy it is. So if you're looking to lose weight or get ripped or do any of that stuff, you really need to stay away from carbohydrates, simple carbs, as much as you can. And that means you're going to have to moderate your intake of complex carbs. So you're going to have to keep low on your grains and breads and all that stuff, which can lead into the gluten debate, which is another talk. But essentially, you want to stick towards your vegetables and your foods that are, if you're getting really serious, you want to stick to your low starch vegetables, your cruciferous vegetables, your leafy greens, all that kind of stuff. Because, you know, even things like potatoes can be relatively high in carbohydrate. And so if you're looking to cut weight, then essentially you need to keep your carbohydrates low. If you keep them low enough, your body will go into ketosis where it's burning fat. You can't burn fat without going into ketosis as long as you're eating carbs, and those carbs are still running into glycogen in your liver. Until your liver is burning through and burnt through what it wants to out of that glycogen in your liver, you are still in fat, the opposite of fat burning mode. You're still in the mode of putting fat on. So that's one reason you shouldn't eat all the time. So you need to have a break from eating where the body burns through the glycogen in the liver. And if you want it to burn through the glycogen well, and you're not to get too hungry or crazy, then a good thing to do is stick with those healthy fats, nice good proteins, and that will serve you well. Okay, so is carbohydrate bad? If you're trying to lose weight, it sure can be. If they're refined, it pretty much always is. You should really keep that low as you can in your diet. And that's the topic pretty much concluded. Any questions, let me know, and if I'm not too busy, I'll holler you back. Otherwise, one of you other guys that sees the question can always fire back your opinion. No one's going to stop you from doing that. And you know, who knows, you might get to shut a troll down. You might get to help a good person that just needs a bit of guidance. So peace.